Get your kaiju figures at Big Bad Toy Store at the link in the description today. Kaiju, turtles, Dragon Ball, and more. It's Steven's Toy Reviews. Hello there, collectors. It's going to be Steven here, and welcome to another Godzilla review, where today we're going to be taking a look at the newest, hottest, latest figure in the kaiju collecting community. It is going to be Super7's Ultimates Godzilla -1 in their Toho Ultimates. That's a mouthful. It's Super7's Godzilla minus Goji. That one, okay? All right, good. So you may have remembered, minus Goji, from -1, won an Oscar, Academy Award, or something like that. It was just a small movie, and now, actually meeting the deadline of their release window, no delays, Super7 has released. I'm not going to say delivered on, but they have released their -1 Godzilla. Does it match the renders that they sold the figure on, or is this going to be another letdown from render to final product? Let's take a look to see whether or not he's going to be worth adding into your collection. Issues the community have noted right from the jump are going to be the glossiness of the figure. It does seem to be very shiny. Some have noted that it looks almost as if he just came out of the water. Additionally, some have commented on having some heavy-handed dry brushing on the figure, even though that the paint application is still at least in concept going to match the colors, mind you, what the renders showed. And then we do have the paint for the head, specifically meaning the eyes and the teeth, which we will talk about in a second. Overall, I do have to say that those are going to be pretty fair criticisms. I will say, in a positive for the paint in a moment, that the paint work, for some, I suppose, could be a bit better. However, when it does come to the glossiness, that is something that is an issue for Super7 with these Toho figures. Not quite sure exactly where the road bump may be here, because this was something that was looked at back at Wave 1 and seem to have been addressed. I do have Wave 4, particularly looking at Space Godzilla right now, and he's matte. Wave 2, Burning Godzilla, pretty matte. Wave 3, Meltdown Godzilla, and even Destroya, pretty matte, little glossy where they're meant to be. So this sort of retread back to Wave 1 tendencies is a little concerning. Now, when it does come to the paint, the brown, bronze, almost rust color of Godzilla here, I will say that I do think that the application that they have is good. So I'm not quite seeing the heavy-handedness that some folks are talking about. I do think that the application looks good. And I will say that it does seem like for a style guide, the scheme for the paint in the areas, it's not abandoned in certain spots. Like, for an example, on the thigh, the entirety of the thigh is painted instead of one spot where you may just look at the thigh and then continue on. That being said, there's very little paint variance from that one particular type of brown, bronze, whatever you want to call it. So it is, oddly enough, I don't want to say monochromatic, because that is clearly not the correct term, but I do think that you're picking up what I'm putting down here. Now, when it does come to the rest of the figure in terms of sculpted detail, this is going to be using the model that was used for the movie, of course, with the necessary edits for articulation and so forth. So sculpted detail-wise, this is going to be very accurate to the source material. Even the coloration, at least for the CGI model, not sure about the final product, approved by those who need to approve it. So very much so in the spirit of SH Monster Arts, I guess in more ways than one. Now, this is going to be something I'm going to touch more on in the articulation section. Unintentionally, however, you may get a little bit of green going on for your colors for the figure as well. Again, I do have to say that I think that the figure does, in essence, look rather good. The actual coloration that they have for the figure looks nice. The sculpted detail is amazing, but it does have some drawbacks, and now we're going to talk about the last part, which is going to be the alternate head parts. This will include the accessories, air quotes there. They're not accessories. They need to move over to a hinged jaw. So for the heads, they are going to have the same dry brushing effect to them, which is, I think, again, good. However, some folks have noted that the scar from where the mind blows up in Godzilla's mouth area, yeah, that spot, it pretty well blends into the rest of Godzilla's head. I do tend to agree there, but nevertheless, the eyes on the normal color head are a bit better than the minus color, which I did show in my unboxing and on my social media, but they still sort of drift outwards and up and down, not quite symmetrical. And it's going to be a bit more apparent with the roaring head sculpt, even though the tongue is a bit more up. It looks like all of the normal color minus Gojis have like that one buck tooth. Now, of course, there is some opinion in the community. You're zooming in very closely here. This is something that I can see from an arm's length away even. And if the critique is just put it across the room, you're not going to see it, why would I not then get a statue? This does also fall back onto the idea that with a 3D model and render, you can include all of the specific details that you want, but when it comes to the actual execution, which the customer will get, you can't have the individual sculpted teeth. Also, my minus Goji has a stub toe. Yeah, failure in the mold. Anyway, for the heads, good compared to what else was on the market, but definitely could be improved. Okay, so I actually needed to go back and re-record this section because I wasn't really pleased with it, and I actually have an update that really does change things because I'm mad now. Yes, I'm legitimately mad. Because accidents happen, but accidents should not happen that easily. All right, so what are we talking about? I mean, I did that to show a point here, but let's talk. Okay, so for minus Goji, the head is going to be on a double axis barbell style ball joint here, right? And when you go to pop the head off, because you're going to need to do that to swap heads, you can see what the joint looks like. For whatever reason, whenever I'm not using heat, the roaring head sculpt is a little bit more difficult to pop on. So I would say if you ever do need to use heat, make sure you are using it. I will actually talk about heat and the dorsal plates. I actually posted a YouTube short about the issue. Just go and check it out. Yes, use heat if you need to use swappable parts. It won't really help you with the tail. But if you don't, for the heads, I've been able to do that with pretty much no issue. But to get minus Goji to look up, he can look up about that far. He can look down about that far. And then we have the ball joint for the neck. Move back and forth, side to side. Keep in mind that there is a little cutaway here to accommodate for the dorsal plates and to help him look up. Okay? All right. So I do want to talk about the ab crunch here next. Okay, folks? All right. So it is loose on both my normal and minus color. So he does like to, move around, get a little loosey-goosey, right? Speed. So I'm not sure what the issue is there. Some other folks have reported that as well, so just something to keep in mind. But of course, we can rock and twist and turn and all the fun stuff. Now, here's the other fun thing that is an issue that is creeping up a bit more. Mine, I've noticed time and time again, I'm having a bigger problem with this. And this isn't the reason why I needed to go back and redo the section. So you're seeing green here, kind of, maybe. Let me just adjust to make sure. There we go. So that green is actually found on the minus color version as well. What seems to be happening is on some parts of the figure where it does not have enough clearance and it runs into the sculpt. You can even see it there, right? It's causing damage. Okay, now the initial idea would just be pull down, but even then you can see that it's not working, so it's not really feasible. This isn't true for all units though, because a buddy of mine, his minus color, he had damage over here whenever he would go to move like this. So it looks like there are alignment issues with the different joints on the figure. So that is definitely something you're going to want to really keep in mind with that. So the way that it factually works is for the shoulders, he can spin them around just like so. So that's good. Can he T-pose? Yes. but do keep in mind you're going to be causing some damage. On my unit, anyway. We do have a bicep swivel. We do have a single elbow hinge. And for the wrists, swivels and hinges. So Godzilla here, realistically, when he's in like, a traditional Godzilla Heisei era pose, he can only move his hand down and up. All right, so for the hips, they are on ball joints, as you can kind of see. Kicking forward and back, I would strongly not advise pushing it just because you're going to have parts colliding into each other. And that is about as much as I can get for the left and the right legs. For the knees, we're basically just going to have a single hinge. We can move just like so. And they do swivel a bit. So you do get some range of movement. Couple this with the ball joints going out to the side. You can then twist the ankle around on ankle rockers, right? And then you can move with a hinge. So you do get some more movement there. You can sort of be cheeky about it. So he does get, some split action, which I think is pretty cool there. All right, so the tail is, it's just a problem in more ways than one. So when you get the tail, what I would recommend doing is first heating it up and then popping all the sections off. Why? Well, here's just going to be some pictures for you so you can see the before and after of what you do and the method that I'm going to tell you about. You actually get less range of movement right out of the box. Now, the reason for that is it looks like, because all of the sections are barbell style, double axis joints, and it seems like the joints are super deep seated into the socket. So this way, they are connected at least as firmly as they can. If you heat them up and you sort of wiggle them out, then you can put them in about maybe a half, 3/4 of the way in, and you're going to have a better range of movement. So you can get a bit better range, and then that looks just much better. So let's go ahead and pop back, and you can see that the tail and actual movement, it has some stability to it. You're going to have parts that pop off, but honestly, it's not much worse than, say, your average SH Monster Arts figure. I do want to bring you back to the idea, though, of the damaged plastic on this figure being green. You can see there that that's the case. Now, here's the big contender and the big issue here. I'm gonna have to bring in, as the song goes, Mars Attacks. Da-da-da-da-da, Mars. Okay, copyright claim. So on this dude here, you're probably like, Steven, what does Mars Attacks have to do with anything? If it will focus. There we go. Okay, so on this particular figure, this one came out not too long ago. Let's go ahead and pop the head off, right? So popping the head off to show a point. Thank you, Minus Goji. The jaw opens and closes. Yay, you can see the range of movement, right? You can see the ball... Oh my, the ball joint is set in there. Yes, it does look like there's modifications to there. Well, you can see the neck joint. Well, we can see that, clearly, because he does have the space helmet, but, clearly he should be able to, once fully socketed in, he's got a little bit of a problem going on there, right? So if you push his head all the way back, which it won't fit in the helmet that way, really, he can open his jaw, but when you have him just kind of look straight on or to the side, he's got no clearance for the jaw. So it looks like that there is an issue there with the joint system. Why did I bring this up and why am I talking about this? If you take a look here at the main ball joint for the tail for Minus Goji, you're going to see that that looks very much so small, almost like it has no clearance at all. I did pop this joint out to just kind of inspect, and it seems like we got a bit of an issue here. This ball joint actually does not seat all the way into the socket. Yeah, I tried this on my Minus Color Goji, and it was just a fruitless endeavor. Regardless of how much I heated the hole, I couldn't fit the ball in, and then actually on my Minus Color Goji, the hole now just jiggles. That is word for word literally what I can report back. And I am not exaggerating. Anyway, this is what is causing an issue for most folks with getting the tail to stick in. So when you do that, you're basically, not basically, but you got to put a little bit of effort into it, and you can get the tail to attach. So it's not a very stable connection. It doesn't really rock or twist and turn from side to side too much. And with just a little small push, the tail will pop off. Now, I know at the beginning of this section, I kind of just like jokingly, pushed and pulled them like that. But over time, that just has just a little bit of tension, and you can see that it will easily pop off there, right? So I had to do a promo shoot for something else, and I decided to include minus Goji here. And when you're maybe holding like this, right, for support or whatever, and you suddenly have a major imbalance of weight, and you have this spiky figure, and he falls on your precious border collie baby. That's when things get a little personal. But that being said, it brings up a point. If this tail, which is a point of balance, should let go, should give way, then you do have a point where minus Goji is going to fall, tip over, so on and so forth. And if for whatever reason you are carrying him around, if it should pop off, you're going to have the tail, which is going to fall off, hit the floor. Maybe he will topple over like he did in my hands, hit your dog who is sick currently. So there are some issues that could happen there, which are not inherent to just the articulation in and of itself. So make of that what you will. I know I've sort of talked about that tongue in cheek, but genuinely, I am kind of upset with that. And you can even see where is it at with this dorsal plate. I think it bent a little bit. Anyway, so yes, the articulation for minus Goji, I know I was very long-winded on that, but nevertheless, we've got issues. We've got problems. In the final cut, not too bad. However, there's some quality control stuff that really could have been improved. Now, here's going to be a size comparison for you so you see how big minus Goji is going to be. And I caught a small blurb, and I think it was the new Blazing Godzilla, the Not Trendmasters tribute. And they had mentioned that it's a 7-inch scale line, I think it was. Yeah, that's kind of odd. But nevertheless, you can see how big he is. And that's about that. So, buy now, skip, or wait for a deal. So, to be clear, when it comes to the looks department, I do think that the figure does look good with the issues that it has even still, right? So some folks do say that it looks a bit too glossy. Some are not a fan of the heavy-handed dry brushing. I do think that objectively the issues with the face are issues with the face. You can't get around that, sorry to say. But I do think that this looks like a great representation of -1. When it comes to the articulation, we do have quite a few issues that are going on here, including parts that are colliding into itself. And that tail, again, I am very frustrated with that, and especially with that incident happening. That makes me very upset that it happened to begin with. And then what does that mean moving forward in the future? So for $85, I don't really know, but I don't think it's that bad if you're looking for a minus Goji action figure, because the alternative on the market right now is going to be $140 at MSRP, and we'll have a video talking about that in the future. But to be short, sweet, and to the point, you should pick it up if you're looking forward to it, with some reservations.